I have this this miniature telephone that I got at a yard sale, and it actually works. This is no joke. All you have to do is set it, and the only problem is when you use it, you have to get it close to your ear, and it can set your hair on fire. And it did. It sets your hair on fire. That's the only problem with it. Now, before we go on, though, I've been noticing around town and basically around the planet Earth, there's some confusion concerning political and economic systems, and that's why I've decided to give you some basic definitions, some help, like understanding things like communism. Now, communism is this idea. Now, we've of course heard that communism has been defeated or something by capitalism, but actually the states that usurped the word communism, basically co-opted the word communism for themselves, were not communists at all, because communism, the idea is that there's communal ownership of land, of property, and the states will eventually wither away. At least that's what the original communists thought. But just like the original socialists, the original communists believed, the original socialists, they warned against a powerful central state developing, as we saw in a place like Russia, where that crushes individual liberty in the name of socialism, which they somehow, for some reason, used interchangeably with communism. Now, socialism is what we see every day. I mean, the public library is an example of socialist tendencies, as well as access television. Socialism just means that socialists believe that we live in a community, we're social animals, and we all pay taxes in order to help the individual members of society, because we rely on one another, and we have this social contract, and we call the system socialism. Well, socialism is an interesting idea, but the problem is that the state itself can acquire too much power. Now, the idea is that the state is just a collection of the individual people, but often people use the word socialism just to promote some kind of authoritarian regime. Now, what the early social... Oh, let me tell you one more thing. Libertarianism you hear a lot about, because libertarians are... sometimes they run for political office. Lawyers sometimes tend to be people who believe in civil rights. Sometimes are, which is, of course, all of us. Sometimes are libertarians. It's a very pure ideology. It believes in the individual liberty of people. To an extreme. What it actually says is that the government should have no power over people. That, of course, means no power to stop you from having an abortion or force you to go to war for the government. It, of course, believes that there shouldn't be an army, there shouldn't be a police force, there shouldn't be any laws that restrict individual freedom. Freedom to make money, if that's what you want to do. They believe in private ownership. They're against public schools. They're against the library, because the library, of course, is well, they would be for some private libraries if that happened about. Libertarians require, in their ideology, for libertarianism to work, that humans are basically good-natured or will be good-natured at some point in time. So if there is, say, an individual private ownership of a highway, and it's a white man who's a bigot who owns the highway, he might have the power to not let black people ride on his highway. But libertarians, I guess, believe that that won't happen so much, or that then African Americans will get together and make their own highway or something. It's actually, Barry Commoner calls it anarchy for the rich, because it just lets you, it's really a great ideology for wealthy people who are starting off in a capitalist society. Now, that's actually not fair to anarchists. Anarchy simply means lack of leaders, of hierarchy. Anarchists believe that people can get together and form associations and help and live together. They're a little bit like socialists, but they don't believe in government. You won't see an anarchist running for president because they don't believe in leaders. They believe that we can all cooperate and live together. Now, the other thing is that, well, let me just tell you that an early anarchist, well, there's something else here. There's something very interesting in one of these signs, which is called anarcho-communism, which is sort of the most liberal, the most free form of communism, the kind of communism that says that the state should just sort of reduce itself and then wither away, which was part of some of the original communist ideology, but was never enacted. Anarcho-communists believe that believe like communists and socialists. Of course, they believe, and libertarians, they believe in gender and ethnic equality. But they also believe that that there shouldn't be wages. They believe we should abolish the monetary system, basically. The chief proponent, or at least some anarcho-communists, the chief proponent of, or one of the proponents of anarcho-communism was a follower of a man called Bakunin, who was a rival of Marx back in the old days. And his name, and I bring this up only because I think you should look him up in the library and read about him, read what he wrote. Kropotkin. Now, Kropotkin wrote lots of stuff, and he was an anarcho-communist, or he was for anarchism communism. And that's just something I want to tell you about. Let's see, I have another sign here. Oh, here's a more modern version of anarcho-communism, or a very similar idea, the priceless economic system. The priceless economic system, or PES, the main proponent of this is a man named Ernest Mann. Ernest Mann is alive today. He publishes the Little Free Press, which you can write to at the address which I will insert here on the screen. The Little Free Press has been going on for decades. It's just this free publication where he kind of spouts off about his ideology. Now, it might be out of, he's written a few books too, and the Little Free Press, I'm not sure he's still putting out. He's in his 60s, you know, he's kind of old. But Ernest Mann promotes this idea that we should that basically, as we all know, money is the root of all evil. And if we just had no money, we would have no there would be no such thing as greed. You wouldn't be able to amass wealth, and there would be no motivation to pollute the environment in order to create, for industry. There would be no motivation for war. That's the idea of the priceless economic system, and people will get together in associations and still create both, anarcho-communists. Oh, here it is. Anarcho-communists and people who believe in the priceless economic system believe that human beings basically shouldn't be working for the sake of working, that there's a lot of unnecessary work that's done. I mean, places that produce little plastic telephones that are also lighters. Those kind of jobs are, people basically don't like doing them for the most part. If they did, that's fine, but most jobs people don't like doing. But people don't like sitting around and doing nothing. So the idea is that if we eliminated wages and just had people working on things that they wanted to do because they wanted to do it, everything would kind of work out. And that's the idea. And it might sound insane to people who grew up with this work ethic in this capitalist society, but I think it's the new ideology of the slacker class, this segment of our generation, which really believes that a career for a career's sake will just lead to unnecessary sadness and frustration. And you should try to find something more interesting to do in life, like playing a band, or if that were a band, that would make sense, or do a video show. Because, and also, as an example of the proof of the fact that people like to work and like to help people is that more and more people are doing community service and volunteering. And that sort of thing. And people basically, this system also believes that people are basically good-natured, but it doesn't allow people to amass wealth and exploit other people. Of course, there should be no central government, but there should be associations and organizations. I mean, anarchism, this is my main point tonight perhaps, anarchism is not the same as chaos. If you turn on the radio, they talk about Somalia, they might talk about anarchy reigning in Somalia, but what they really mean is chaos, because anarchy is a lack of leaders, and what they have in Somalia is too many leaders in different factions. So that's chaos, not anarchy. I just wanted to clear that up.